On the news, Nigeria confirms more cases of the coronavirus as tally surged to 12. Appeal Court upholds Ifeanyi by election as Anambra State Senator. And Mauritius records first cases of COVID-19 as Trump approves use of chloroquine to treat infection. Hello and welcome to News Now. I am Fidelia Aguncha. Barely 24 hours after tally from confirmed cases of the coronavirus in Nigeria hit 8, more verified cases have emerged. Lagos Commissioner for Health Akin Abayomi has confirmed 4 new cases of the COVID-19 pandemic, bringing the total number of confirmed cases in the country to 12. At a press briefing on Thursday, Abayomi explained that the new cases were among 19 people who were tested on Wednesday. He also revealed that the index case of the coronavirus, which is an Italian, has recovered from the illness and now tests negative to the virus.
We have 4 new positives. The first new positive is a contact of the 3rd case that came from the UK. So she has tested positive and she will be admitted shortly. We have a new case, a female Nigerian returning from France. We have a 3rd case, a Nigerian male in his 50s. He's never traveled anywhere, and he presented with symptoms. He was referred to us. We went to retrieve the sample. The sample tested positive, and he has since been admitted into our facility. Our 4th case is a Nigerian male. He arrived on the 13th of March from Frankfurt to Lagos on Lufthansa. We are currently running more tests on suspected cases and contacts of our confirmed cases. It is clear that we have a combination of imported cases and local transmission. I have the good news to tell you that the index case has now cleared the virus. So we will check him one more time, and if he's negative, he will be discharged.
Meanwhile, the suspected case of the coronavirus reported in Katsina State has tested negative. The State Commissioner for Health, Yakubu Danja, announced this at a press conference on Thursday. He said a man test sample came back negative and there is no cause for alarm. The state had on Wednesday reported that it had quarantined a man who recently returned from Malaysia after he developed symptoms of the disease. Elsewhere in Ondo State, the government on Wednesday reported a suspected case of the coronavirus in Akure, the state capital, in a man who recently returned from the U.S. Result from the case is still being expected by the government. Nigerian Senate has suspended all public hearings from next week Tuesday as a precautionary measure to check the spread of the coronavirus. President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, made the announcement on Thursday after a closed-door session which lasted nearly 2 hours. Lawan also stated that the Senate gallery will be shut down to all categories of visitors as well as excursions to the National Assembly complex.
The Senate also resolved to suspend all public hearings till further notice as a result of coronavirus COVID-19. In addition, the Senate gallery will remain closed to the public till further notice, including excursion from schools and organizations from Tuesday, 24th of March, 2020. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the closed session? Thank you.
And in a bid to stop any further importation of the coronavirus into the country, the federal government says it has cancelled visas issued to persons from countries with over 1,000 confirmed cases of the coronavirus. Minister of Interior Rauf Aregbesola announced this while briefing journalists at a press conference after the Federal Executive Council meeting in Abuja. This is coming hours after the federal government placed a travel ban on 13 countries, including the US, UK, China, and Italy, all of whom have over 1,000 confirmed cases of the disease.
These are all countries with over 1,000 cases domestically of the virus. But what this really means is that we are suspending issuance of visas. And we are cancelling all visas already issued to citizens or travelers from these nations. It will take effect from Saturday, and it will last for 4 weeks for the time being, while developments will dictate what will happen thereafter.
The federal government has announced a slash in the 2020 budget by 1.5 trillion naira as part of measures to respond to the impact of the coronavirus on the economy. This follows recommendations from the presidential panel set up to review the impact of the pandemic on the 2020 budget. These changes have brought about a cut in the price of premium motor spirit, popularly known as petrol. There is more in this report. In the wake of the spread of COVID-19 and the resultant crash in crude oil prices, the federal government constituted a panel to address the effect on the 2020 budget. The primary duty of the committee was to review the $57 oil benchmark for the budget and ultimately recommend an appropriate cut from the current 10.59 trillion naira. After 1 week of consultations, it has now come up with some recommendations, one of which is the reduction of the oil benchmark to $30 a barrel.
The introduction of PMS price modulation mechanism, the reason being that at the low crude oil price of $30 to $32 per barrel, that there is no under-recovery. So under-recovery is right now zero. In fact, we are at an over-recovery stage. It means the PMS price will be reduced to reflect the reduced price of the crude oil in the international market.
So the pump price of petroleum of petrol will be from now $125 for now. If there is any further drop, it will even drop further.
With this slash, the federal government's projected revenue will drop by over 45%. To check this, the government says it has decided to amend some projects in the budget and find new ways to improve revenue.
We are looking at enhancing production to make sure that at the minimum, the 1.8 million barrels per day that is in the budget as production volumes is realized, and NNPC has directives to that effect, that we also need to adjust customs revenue, which has been budgeted for at 1.5 trillion, but we're adjusting it downwards because we anticipate that trade volumes will reduce. And once trade volumes reduce, customs revenue will be significantly impacted as a result. We also have approval to reduce the projected revenue from privatization proceeds by as much as 50%. Because, again, of the slowdown in economic activities, we are anticipating that the sale of the independent power plants might not be fully realized as planned for in the budget.
The minister also reviews that the current and capital expenditures across all federal government agencies will be reduced to boost operating surplus accrued to the Federation account.
On the expenditure side, the President has approved that we should cut down the capital expenditure budgeted by 20% across ministries, departments, and agencies, and also a 25% cut of all government-owned enterprises. And this includes the ones that are in the budget, in the national budget, the 10 top ones that we included in the 2020 budget, but also the ones that we didn't include in the 2020 budget. So all of these GOEs will have their recurrent expenditure and capital expenditure cut down by 25%.
With these changes, the revised budget and medium-term expenditure framework will now be submitted to the National Assembly for approval. But in the meantime, the federal government has set aside 1 billion naira to address the fast-spreading novel coronavirus. Fidelia Aguncha, TV360, Nigeria. Well, as part of the measures to stop the spread of the coronavirus pandemic, the National Identity Management Commission, NIMC, has ordered the immediate shutdown of all its enrollment centers in Lagos, Ekiti, Ogun, Katsina, and Anambra State. In a statement signed by its spokesperson, Kayode Adegoke, the Commission said the move became necessary to prevent its staff and applicants from getting more vulnerable to the pandemic. It adds that consequently, all enrollment activities, card collection, and other identity-related activities have been suspended in the affected states. Mauritius has confirmed its first 3 cases of the coronavirus. In a statement released by the government on Thursday, it's noted that the patient recently returned to the country. According to the statement, 2 had worked on a cruise ship and 1 returned from the UK. Meanwhile, the US has approved anti-malaria drug chloroquine for use as a treatment against the coronavirus. President Donald Trump, who announced the decision on Thursday, said the Food and Drug Administration has gone through with the approval process for the drug, and it will be made available to patients by prescription. The shutdown of English football has been extended until at least April 30. This was contained in a joint statement from the Football Association, Premier League, Professional Football Association, and League Managers Association on Thursday. Bosses from all 20 Premier League clubs discussed via video conference the best way to finish the fixtures this season, which is currently suspended until the beginning of April. UEFA's decision to postpone Euro 2020 for 12 months earlier this week could allow games to be completed over the summer if strict restrictions on traveling and mass gathering to halt the spread of COVID-19 are lifted in time. The leagues will hope to finish the season once play can be restarted, rather than accepting the current standing as final or declaring the campaign null and void. Well, we'll take a break here and return with other news stories. Don't go away. And away from the coronavirus pandemic, lawmakers at the Senate have passed for second reading a bill that mandates a public debate for presidential, vice presidential, and governorship aspirants. Fatai Buhari, lawmaker representing Oyo North, who sponsored the bill, said it is important for those aspiring to lead the people to take part in mandatory public debates before elections. Buhari said this while addressing journalists in Abuja shortly after the bill passed second reading. Meanwhile, no punishment is preferred in the bill against anyone who refuses to attend the debates.
The bill is a proposal to give legislative backing for Independent National Electoral Commission to organize and conduct debate for all candidates into the offices of the President and Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and Governor and Deputy Governor of a state. This bill, if considered and passed by this allo chamber, will strengthen our democracy and bring it in conformity with the practice of other renowned democracies in the world.
This bill, that if enacted, if passed by this House and become a law, it will regulate and showcase the capacity of the people that want to serve Nigeria in the level of a president, the level of a vice president, the level of a governor, level of a deputy governor.
I think, given ANEC the responsibility of organizing this debate is going to be very controversial, because in most countries where they do this debate, they give marks. And the moment you allow ANEC to begin to give marks to the candidate before the actual elections, then the whole election is already determined before the date. So I think the best thing to do is to allow this debate to take place, but to allow an independent body.
The best way to test one's ability is for you to answer questions. So as for those that will hold executive position in Nigeria at the state and federal level, the electorate as the employer must be able to, one of the ways through which they are tested is not through campaign alone. In campaign, everybody, in fact, the candidate may only speak for 2 or 3 minutes and it will just be a jamboree kind of thing.
I believe that INEC has enough responsibility, and to give INEC the responsibility again to organize this kind of debates, INEC being a government body could probably cause some difficulty in people, especially in opposition.
President Muhammadu Buhari has launched the National Broadband Plan for 2020 to 2025 in Abuja. According to the government, the plan essentially is intended to deepen internet penetration in the country. The president also commissioned the National Emergency Call Center, which is expected to link Abuja residents with the police, fire service, federal road safety officials during an emergency. President Buhari also launched the Digital Nigeria program, which is designed to equip young Nigerians with digital and entrepreneurial skills. The Court of Appeal has set aside an FCT High Court judgment sacking Senator Ifeanyi Ubah as a lawmaker representing Anambra South Senatorial District. In a unanimous judgment delivered by Justice Stephen Ada, the court held that the FCT High Court acted outside its jurisdiction to entertain a matter that arose in Anambra State. The court also awarded a cost of 250,000 naira against the first and second respondents in the appeal. The embattled Senator Ifeanyi Ubah on January 18 filed a suit at the Court of Appeal to challenge the judgment which removed him as the lawmaker representing the state. Well, it's been 4 days after the pipeline explosion which claimed the lives of at least 21 people and displaced several others in the Abule-Ado area of Lagos State. The residents of the Shoba community where the incident took place are still counting their human and material losses. Some of them spoke to our correspondent, Oyin Adegule, and she files in this report. Take a listen.
No amount of succor can restore some of the terrible damage that has occurred in this community. The grief of losing friends and families, homes, and for some, all they've worked for. These shattered roofs and burnt cars, as well as residues of damaged furniture, are the only reminders that they once lived here comfortably.
We have recorded 276 displaced, 5 schools affected. We have 3 churches affected, 1 hotel affected, 1 shopping complex affected. We are able to categorize mildly affected buildings to be 93. Moderately affected building is 44. And severely affected building is 33. All the numbers of vehicles that were affected is 43.
For the survivors, the memory is still fresh and is one that will linger for a long time.
A whole lot of lives were lost. I even lost a friend and his wife too. My TV was damaged, my cabinet in the kitchen, a whole lot of things. I've not been able to sleep in my house. I've been sleeping in my cousin's house. I would never imagine that kind of explosion, you understand, will cost what it has cost.
It affected 3 of my building, the roofing and the glasses. But thank God, no enough member of my family injured. There's one of my friends here, he just did the wedding last year, only son. but he lost his life with his wife and house girl. What about the Daobi, the one of the biggest landlord in this estate? It was the motor catch fire and the wife and the boy, and that in one is going to have a wedding next month by 18.
Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, who visited the scene, pledged support for the victims and the Lagos state government. Residents were also urged to avoid the incident scene for safety purposes.
We're going to work in the capacity of investigating the root cause of this incident. We're also going to work in the area of setting up a strategic framework so that we will address these issues once and for all. And we're also going to work in the area of rebuilding these structures.
It's still a very volatile environment, so people should not be wandering around. That's why they've said that all these equipment should even stop working until that pipe is secure, is free, and is safe.
A 2.9 billion naira emergency relief fund has been launched to support victims and other affected persons, but residents are demanding more than this from the government.
The committee should relocate within the precinct of the incident, and that is why we have provided the palace of Kabiyesi Obalado in order for proper ascertainment of the incident, in order to take proper inventory of the loss and also ascertain the identities of the victims and all other residents that are within and around the Amu-Odofin local government area of Lagos State.
Away from the scene of the incident, this is one of the hospitals where some of the injured persons are receiving care. The commander of the Nigerian Navy Reference Hospital gave an update on their conditions.
The one in ICU, he suffered burns that involved his face, and he also had inhalational injuries, so he had difficulty breathing. So his airway was more or less maybe burnt. He inhaled smoke, so the airway was compromised, and that was why the main reason why we took him into the ICU, so we could take over his breathing for him and allow the lungs and the airway to heal.
The Lagos state government has opened a Igondo relief camp for displaced persons. While the evacuation of persons is ongoing, the traditional rulers of Shoba community are also asking to be carried along by the committee set up by the government to investigate the incident. Uyi Adekunle, TV360, Lagos.
Some ministers have been reviewing their performances since the beginning of the President Muhammadu Buhari's presidency. At the end of the Federal Executive Council meeting, which was presided over by the President, ministers briefed journalists on some of their presentations and decisions reached by the Council. Our correspondent, Abisola Adebayo, tells us more in this next report.
Part of this week's Federal Executive Council meeting are the ministers presenting their scorecards to the Council on how much progress has been made in their respective ministries. In his brief, Minister of Aviation Adi Sirika gives updates on plans for the national carrier and other ongoing projects in various levels of completion.
We told Council that by Q4 2021, we would finish the concession of airports, all of the 4 airports, and then to implement effective maintenance and optimal use of airport facilities. That is being done. We are drawing up a maintenance program and other projects around these airports. We also asked to ensure the establishment of a national carrier. It is a very, very advanced stage. The outline business case is completed. The socio-economic impact of having a carrier have been added to the outline business case. It will come in for approval, and then by 2021, Q3, we would have the national carrier established, and the planes will be flying domestically, and thereafter to certify all of the requirements for EASA and so on, and will begin international.
The Council also approved an additional 2 billion naira revised cost for the completion of an inland river port in Lokoja, Kogi State capital.
This project actually started 8 years ago and was supposed to have been completed within a year and a half. But unfortunately, due to some complications, being the fact that the location had been encumbered, so the project stalled and was now being revised. The revised sum was now 6.4 billion naira.
On his part, Minister of Water Resources Sulaiman Adamu presented a performance update to the council. Adamu anchored his presentation on the 3 pillars of water resources management approved by the President in 2016.
All the 8 aspects we're working on there, we have concluded most of them. Under policy, we have already approved the National Water Resources Policy, the Irrigation and Drainage Policy. The only thing that has not materialized, but which we are still working on, is the National Water Resources Bill. We've transformed the River Basin Development Authorities. That's another issue. We have prioritized our projects. We inherited 116 projects, and we've put up a program. We prioritize them through high, medium, and low priority, and we've been able to implement some of these projects, and so far probably about 20 or so of these projects have been completed between irrigation, dams, and water supply.
During the meeting, members of the Federal Executive Council also observed a minute silence in honor of the victims of the Abule Ado pipeline explosion in Lagos State. Abisola Adebayo, TV360, Abuja.
Well, we'll take a break here and return with Oyin Adegule, who will give us a review of activities on the stock market today. Don't go away.
Investors on the NSE reversed all the gains from previous sessions today amid the spread of coronavirus in the country. At the close of trading, key market indicators fell by 711 points to close at 3.12% lower, and market cap also dropped by about 317 billion naira. And this anxiety prompted sell-offs in the stocks of large capitalized equities in the market, including Nestle, which is feeling, I beg your pardon, let me just take this back a bit. Nestle led the pack of losers today, feeling the most impact, as I said, for the second straight day and depreciating further by 30 naira. And Nestle's current share price of 850 naira represents a massive drop from over 1,200 it was trading for about this time last month. Bad trading as well for MTN Nigeria, Dangote Cement, and of course we also had Zenith Bank as well. And Dangote Cement stocks also continue to nosedive as well. Zenith Bank completed the list of 4, losing 1 naira and 35 kobo. Meanwhile, the equities that managed to make slight gains on the floor of the market today were Africa Prudential, of course, leading the pack. International Breweries also made the cuts. Dangote Sugar and Sterling Bank also made gains of 81 kobo combined. And in summary, the value of trade dropped from 10.5 billion naira yesterday to 4.7 billion today, while volume of trade also decreased. And moving on now to the foreign scene, we see that it was a bearish market for FTSE and Dow Jones. FTSE is soaring by almost 10% after the Bank of England announced its second interest cut of the month. And Dow Jones is equally rising, but Nikkei hits 3.5-year low as panic selling over coronavirus pandemic continue to ravage the markets. And that's it from here. It's back to you now, Fidelia.
Well, thank you, Owen, for that update. Now to the foreign scene. The Russian foreign military has denied claims made by U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo that Russia has killed dozens of Turkish military personnel in Syria. A source from the ministry condemned the allegations, accusing U.S. officials of pushing their massive anti-Russia propaganda campaign by disseminating false and provocative information. Last month, an airstrike that Ankara said was carried out by the Syrian government forces killed at least 34 Turkish soldiers, the deadliest attack on the Turkish army in nearly 30 years. On March 5, Turkey and Russia, which back opposition sides in Syria's war, agreed to halt hostilities in the country's northwest after a recent escalation of violence displaced nearly 1 million people. And in sports, the market value of Super Eagles star Kelechi Iheanacho has risen from £12 million to 15 in the Premier League's latest market value update on transfer markets. This has seen an increase of £3 million from his previous market value, and also saw a difference as high as 25% following the Leicester City forward's improved performances. Iheanacho has rediscovered himself, with the attacker now getting game time on a regular basis for the Foxes so far in the 2019-2020 season, after falling out of favour last term. And that's it on News Now. Many thanks for joining us. I am Fidelia Aguncha. Bye for now.